And we are back. And we just finished watching 1989's Say Anything, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour and 40 minutes. The film is written and directed by Cameron Crowe and chronicles the summer romance of Lloyd Dobler, played by John Cusack, and Diane Court, played by Ione Skye. This is one of my favorite love stories. I think the summer that this came out, I went to the cinema and watched it 4 separate times.
I've always heard of this movie. I've never actually seen it. I've seen the myriad parodies of Lloyd Dobler holding a stereo over his head, which I'm sure we all have, which our kids have seen as well.
Which has been parodied ad nauseum.
Yes, indeed. It is a classic scene.
Classic song, too.
Classic
In Your
song.
Eyes by Peter Gabriel is probably, one of the best love songs ever written. I'm going to go around the table and get impressions. Olive G., what did you think of this movie?
The look on your face doesn't come across on the podcast. What'd you think? Come on. Verbalize it. Did you like it? You loved it, didn't you?
No.
You thought this was the greatest movie ever.
It was awful.
Awful. Why was it awful?
Because
it wasn't Animal Crossing?
Yes, we need to play Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing is on life now, Daddy.
It's not my life. I feel like that's more webtoon or
Love
something.
this new update.
The new update is really cool.
Okay. I have no idea.
All right, let's move on. G, what did you think of this movie?
I mean, it wasn't my favorite, but like I don't think it was terrible. Their displays of affection were cringy though.
I could hear you cringing every time displays of affection happened.
Yeah, like I was kind of daydreaming this whole movie. Well, I did watch like the beginning of it. It's just not my kind of movie.
All right.
And then like I remember focusing in and all of a sudden they were just having sex and I was just like,
There wasn't anything graphic about it, though.
There wasn't, but it was still just like you
implied, and of course that always puts G.
They're driving, and then I just see the movement under a blanket in the backseat of a car.
Yeah, I mean that's a teenage thing.
I didn't think it would be like
and
Diane's thing. Like she said, she attacked him, and she said that to her dad, which made things even worse.
Well, she had that kind of relationship with her father. She could say anything to him, and he could say anything to her.
I would not use that word if I ever told either of you that. But strange.
It's probably more information than your father and I ever want to hear.
Yeah.
Did you like any of the characters? And if so, which ones?
I thought, like I told you, I thought Lloyd was the poor man's version of Dad.
Yes. Yes.
Really? Oh.
I told Mom that.
Okay. I'll accept that. And Lloyd seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, he was nice. So he's probably my favorite character.
What
I didn't like Diane the best because she broke up with him for like not really a great reason.
Well, I think that's the thing about youth. You're kind of like, you're not a child, but you're not an adult. I think a lot of your decisions are based on hormones and emotion and not really rational thinking. And
Completely irrational.
it's just par for the course.
Seriously, as you get older and you look back on your teenage years, you'll basically say,
Oh my God.
What the hell was I thinking? Why on earth was I that stupid? And it's like we've all done it.
all been
and
there,
and
yeah.
when we're that age, we're just like, yeah, man, I got it all figured out.
Yeah.
Those
I know
old
everything.
fools don't know what they're talking about. I got it all figured out. Mom and Dad suck.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever think like that.
Well,
Or some variation.
Some
of that
variation.
speech.
yeah, my version of teenagers is based on 80s movies. So I grew up with that, and all the kids in those movies were just like, yeah, you don't understand, Dad.
Well,
but-
every
and then
every
that-
teenager was that stupid scene at the gas and sip. They're all bitches, man. Bitches.
That child was a child. That
was a
wasn't
child.
a teenager. Oh my God.
Yeah. And Jeremy Piven was like in his 20s and allegedly going to high school.
Well, come on. Nobody in high school had that much receding hair.
I will out myself and say the first time I saw this, I was completely enamored of Lloyd Dobler, and then swore that I would find my own Lloyd Dobler. And I did.
Well,
I did well for myself.
I was never into kickboxing, though.
That's all right. What did you think? This is your first time watching this film?
Yeah, I thought it was a good film. I mean, it was like 80s teen romance. I think it's like a different flavor of 80s because the dominant 80s teen romance stuff was like John Hughes.
Right.
Like
Well, this is end
guy,
of 80s. This is 89. So this
that
is
guy
towards
like
the
dominated
end
the genre
of teen movies.
and this sort of like fell in there. But I mean, this was good. I liked it. I also they got to pump up the drama in there, and I wasn't on board with Diane's decision there. But like I said, if you don't have the drama, the conflict,
Right. Exactly.
like, why-
and I think
let's make ourselves miserable. Oh, we got to break up.
right. And I think the other nice thing about this movie is that it didn't feel dumbed down. I think that was one of the things that I appreciated the first time I saw this movie, because like you said, John Hughes definitely dominated that genre, but in this time frame, especially like in the 80s going into the 90s, there's a lot of, I guess, focus on teen movies, but the teens were always parodies and over caricatures and just really exaggerated versions of something.
I was just doing a prime example.
Exactly, like that, right?
You don't understand, Dad.
And I think some of this is here too, but it's more subtle, and it felt more organic. And I think that if you look back, one of the things that I appreciated about this film was that the script is very strong. I mean, even to this day, it feels like stuff that high schoolers would say. I think it's very true to that life, and I think that when you focus on teen movies of the 80s and even going into the 90s, because again, this is 1989, so you're kind of straddling the end of the decade going into the next. And a lot of the teen-focused movies were parodies and caricatures of what people thought teens were. They were either hypersexualized beings, or we always have a laugh, right, when we see She's All That playing, because we're like, oh, yes, Rachel Lee Cook is just so hideous. My God.
So deformed.
Yes. So, and in here, the kids all feel genuine and very true, right? Corey is like this lovelorn girl who's been just completely abused by this guy, Joe, right?
Yeah.
You feel really,
douchebag.
yeah, you feel really, really bad for her. She wrote, what was it, 65 songs?
65 songs about him. Yeah.
Joe. And I think people like that. The kids that are super sensitive. I mean, even Lloyd, he didn't really operate like most boys. He was definitely in a class by himself. He marched to his own drum. He had an infinite sense of right and wrong, and just was like a really cool A1 kind of guy. Like if I knew Lloyd in high school,
he was a good guy.
He was definitely a good guy.
All the
his little
the girls
girlfriends
that he was friends with were just like, you know what? Why wouldn't she want to be with this guy?
Right,
He's just awesome.
Right.
He was just a genuinely nice person.
guy,
He wasn't going to screw anybody over. He was totally respectful to the father.
And even Diane, like she says that scene about how she says, when people ask me, like, what am I doing with Lloyd? And she gives the example, like on the night that they went out for the first time, how he like points it out the glass and then he moves it and he takes her arm to make her walk around it. So it was like, and even when he's going to pick her up for the date and he sees the father and he's like, you know, for the next 7 or 8 hours, your daughter is going to be totally safe with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was an absolute gentleman. He knew he didn't really have much to offer. He was humble. The only thing he really could offer was
Himself.
the goodness that was, inherent in his personality, and it showed through. And everybody loved the guy.
Yeah.
And everybody trusted the guy. He was, the guy who had
master.
the keys. And yeah.
Yeah,
Lloyd
very cool guy.
Lloyd
Very,
was an
very cool
excellent
guy.
character. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely felt, I mean, the soundtrack definitely feels steeped in that time period.
They weren't overpowering with
They
any,
weren't overpowering, but it definitely...
There was the Peter Gabriel song and
Right.
maybe some other...
There's a couple of... there's a Fishbone song. I actually owned the soundtrack at some point. I probably don't anymore, but I think Fishbone's on there. The Replacements are on there. So it's very much... I mean, this takes place in Washington State, so it's very much like getting into like grunge kind of music. Although Red Hot Chili Peppers isn't really grunge, right? Taste the Pain. That song plays towards the beginning. But
like Soundgarden.
Soundgarden. Is Soundgarden on this? I don't remember. No. I remember the Fishbone had a song on there, and the Replacements.
This is before like grunge was more of like 91.
90s. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Mudhoney and all those other bands. Right. But it felt when you watch certain things and you, especially things that are now quote unquote old, like that girl talking with her hands. It's interesting to see it now because it's definitely a snapshot of that time. The way people dressed and the words that they said and just everything, right? So it's...
Yeah, but I mean, the story didn't feel dated, though.
No, because I think that's universal. You know, the boy loves the girl and then she loves him, but then there's family drama and then she feels the need to drop him and he's always there because he loves her and that doesn't stop. And then she realizes that she wants to be with him, so she goes to find him, right? And I think that's, I mean, the whole idea of love, first love, loving someone, high school love, all of that is like universal, whether you lived in 1989 or 2021, right?
Yeah.
Those things don't change. The people change, the situations change, but there's some things that are kind of a shared experience, right? And I think that your first love is always your most powerful love, right? Because it's just all encompassing and it feels just so much bigger than it is. And even now, sometimes if you look back and you think about your first crushes and stuff like that, I mean, it's almost bittersweet, right? It's a time long past, but it's sometimes nice to go down memory lane. Yeah, I've always enjoyed this movie. I think the writing is sharp. I still remembered a ton of the dialogue.
You were speaking it right along with the actors.
Yeah. But it's like this is a script.
Like me.
I mean, I'm going to out myself and say I am not a fan of Almost Famous. I know that a lot of people love that movie, but
I hated that movie.
I hated that movie. I really, but you know, like Singles I liked, which is sort of like the next, because those characters, it's the same situation as about relationships and stuff, but those characters are a little bit older. And this movie is, to me, like my favorite Cameron Crowe. I mean, he also, I think, wrote and directed Jerry Maguire, which is also a great film. But, yeah, I think the writing on this, and for what it is just really sharp, really holds up. I mean, again, from 1989, these feelings, these emotions, these situations, again, they're universal. Everyone's had like that first love, that first heartbreak. So yeah, I mean, it really speaks to me even after all of this time. And it was nice to watch it with you guys and share that. Although some of you didn't appreciate it as much, but that's okay.
She's 10 years old. This is not her type of movie.
Yeah. So I'm going to go around the table and get numbers. I'm going to start with you.
Like I said, it was good. I'd probably give it a 7.
G.
I give it a 6.9.
6.9. What about you, Olive?
Two.
A 2.
God. Doesn't get the 10-year-old vote.
No more Halloween candy for you. It's late.
What about you, Joanne?
I'm going to give this an 8.5 because I think that even though it's a movie from 89, I think a lot of the situations are still relevant. I think the dialogue is sharp, amazingly so. I think the actors all do a great job here. Yeah, everyone's just brilliant. Lily Taylor, John Cusack, Ione Skye, everybody is just really, really good and just really lovely. And this movie came together so nicely. And I think everything about it, it just comes together really, really well. I mean, I can't say enough about it. This is one of my favorite movies. All right. So that's it. We'll wrap it up, and we will come back with another review soon. Good night.
Night.
Good night.